Okay, we're live.
Excellent. Okay, guys, just so you know, we are live. Howdy. My name is Brian Yon. I'm the traffic engineer for the city of Fort Worth. And I understand you guys are working on a project to address some traffic concerns at Churchill and White Settlement, correct? Okay. So what Mr. Ivy explained to me is you're looking at a couple of potential solutions. One would be a traffic signal. One would be the installation of a school zone on White Settlement. Anything else? That was pretty much. Okay, so in your study, some of the things that you're going to want to include, well, we back up a little bit and give you some history on traffic signals. Traffic signals are governed by what we call a Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It's a federal manual that the state has adopted and subsequently the city has adopted. So it's kind of the rule book when it comes to stop signs and fatal markings and traffic signals and crosswalk, anything to do with traffic control devices. That's kind of our go-to guy. And it is actually a governing document. So it's law, not a policy, not a wish we could do this but we can't, or we want to do something but it's not allowed. If it's not allowed, we can't do it. So on traffic signals, there's still nine warrants. The ones that you're going to be, so a warrant is something that's a criteria that you have to satisfy in order to even consider the installation of the traffic signal. Now you can meet 2 or 3 warrants. It doesn't mean you have to put a signal in. It simply means you can. If you don't meet any of those 9 criteria, you really can't put a signal in, even if you want it real bad. It doesn't matter. So the warrants that you'll be looking at are the volume-based warrants, and that's warrant 1, 8 hour, the 8 hour. There's also a 4-hour warrant. Is that 2? 2. And then there's 3 the peak hours. There's a 1-hour warrant. So the manual is online. You can go to text.gov and look at their online manual section, and it's the 2011 TMUTCD, Texas Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Device. It has all the criteria spelled out. Those first 3 warrants that are volume-based, you have to collect data. You really want 24 hours, but you need 12 is a minute. Because the number 1 warrant is an 8-hour warrant, and it has certain different volume thresholds for the side street and the main street that you have to meet for 8 hours of the day. They don't have to be consecutive.
It has to be.
Okay, I'm thinking of the other. Okay, so it has to be 8 consecutive hours during the day that you satisfy those volume criteria. The second warrant, the 4-hour warrant, has a little bit different criteria. I think they're actually a little higher, and you only have to meet them 4 hours a day. So, and then there's the third volume warrant, which is you can have this. It's a 1 hour called a peak hour warrant. You have this 1 hour a day that's horrendous. It allows you to put a traffic signal so that during that 1 hour, say you have a big, like a high school or a big factory where everybody gets out at one time, it allows you to address that. You don't have to meet it before, you don't have to meet it 8. So those are the volume ones. The other ones that you have to worry about or that you want to investigate and include is accident history. And if you have 5 correctable accidents in a 12-month period, do they look? Okay, so it's 5 correctable accidents in a 12-month period, and the correctable accidents are they're not really clearly defined, but it's typically right-angle accidents. So if somebody pulls out and gets T-boned, that's a correctable accident. A rear-end accident, not so much. In fact, that's one of the downsides of putting.
For some reason, that bell is off.
Okay.
It's signaling for.
No, we don't have. I haven't heard a bell in a long time. No, we don't have.
Well, unfortunately, you can hear another one here about 5 minutes.
Okay. So one of the downsides of putting the traffic signal in is a lot of times you'll actually increase the number of rear-end accidents. So that's why we want to control. We don't want to just put traffic signal willy-nilly wherever we want just because we want one. Now, if that doesn't happen, politics do drive some installations. But those are really the 4 warrants that you want to look at. You know, the other ones are systems warrant, pedestrian warrant. The pedestrian warrant is really intended for like downtown, where you have all these office buildings and several hundred people walking back and forth an hour for 8 hours. You probably won't satisfy it. So that's the signal portion. Now, the school zone portion is also addressed in TCD. School zones, contrary to popular belief, are not to slow traffic down adjacent to a school. School zones are intended to protect a crossing, and only to protect the crossing, not the people walking parallel to the roadway on sidewalks. Those people aren't in the roadway. The 20-mile-an-hour zone is intended to protect people who have to cross that facility to get to, in this case, the campus. So one of the things you're going to want to look at for the school zone warrant is how many people do you have crossing from the south side to the north side? Where are they crossing? And you're going to want to count not just one place, but you're going to want to count. If they're crossing at that end of the building, this end of the building, in the middle, count them all, because what you're going to want to, your argument is going to be, if we put a crossing here protected by a school zone, everybody's going to cross in one place. So that's the number that you're looking at. So that's the kind of data that you're going to need. Typically, you want to collect that for a couple of days in the morning and in the afternoon. They may be similar, they may not. The morning and afternoon may not be the same. We see a lot of schools where they're not. Some kids stay late. And the times that you're going to want to probably look at that are the times that are covered by your existing schools. So you don't want to have people that are crossing at 8 o'clock at night, that they won't be protected by that 20-mile-an-hour zone. It's the same times that you have on your school zone in Churchill.
Is it possible to, because one of the concerns when they were writing a blog about kind of the rollout and dealing with the authenticity of this, one of the things that a lot of them brought up was the fact that we have cross-country kids that cross that intersection at like what 5 to 6:30 in the morning for that, so that they can run across the levee. Is there a way to be able to adjust that, take that into consideration?
Well, not so much for the school zone. There is another device, and we've started putting them in school zones kind of as a redundancy. They operate 24/7. The latest one we put in is at Alta Vista and Phone. But it's the device where you push the button and the flashing lights, the strobe lights, we call them rectangular flashing beacons, rapid, or RRFB, rectangular rapid flashing. Those are user activated, so the runners wouldn't have the 20-mile-an-hour school zone, but they would have a device that says, "Hey, motorists, nobody's crossing the road." That would actually probably be a better solution. Running the school zone at 5 o'clock in the morning, what you're going to find, what we find in a lot of places, is that they don't see anybody crossing. There's no compliance, so they won't go 20. And then somebody does cross unexpectedly, and that's the problem we see with a lot of school zones. And that's another reason why, why we want to keep the school zone to protect that crossing. The one you have on Churchill, which is like 8 miles long, when people don't see active pedestrian crossing, and they don't see it repeatedly, and say, "Hey, I'm driving here and there's nobody crossing." That's when we don't get compliance. Long school zones get less compliance, lower compliance. If the most effective school zone is short, it protects a crosswalk. People, if they can see the end of it, and we try to keep about 500-600 feet long, you can see that end school zone sign when you hit the 20-mile-an-hour sign. Then the compliance goes up because they know that it's just this little space that I have to go through.
Is it possible to get data from your department on, like, when you mentioned that the school zone I think of is probably the Southwestern Boulevard, it's right there at Target Elementary, before the traffic circle, because when it turns on, how long it is very long.
Yeah, and it's a big road. Yeah.
So, like, is it possible to get data from your department to where they can use that as evidence for being able to justify length and those type of things?
Well, You know what kind of data you're looking for?
Frequency of non-compliance,
Yeah, that's.
or would that be
That's
that be
PD. Yeah, so we don't do any enforcement.
Right.
Correct. And we control, our division controls when it go on and off, use a little 3G, so 3G mode. But the actual, any historic data, if you wanted to do that, you could actually collect data. And I know you know, there are consultants. And actually, if you send me an email, maybe we have a device, a little Bluetooth radar counter, and if you identify a zone, we can get you 1 or 2 days of data if the device is ready. We use it for our own speed data collection, but if we have a window that's not being used, we can probably, if you pick a zone you want to model, and then we'll identify what day we can.
Do we also have the zone that we're investigating, monitor, and use that where we can see what the data, what the most recent data would say right now about what the speed is?
Again, it's gonna be based on the availability we have the one device, that's all.
Okay.
And we're trying to buy more right now. We have some radar speed signs that your speed is, but we found they're really horrible on that. They collect data, but they're not accurate. The little laser tags much more. So we can supply you with some of the data. I can supply you with some, if we have, and I don't know if the one on the south, Garza has a crossing guard, but we also have some information regarding what is a typical location as far as when the kids crossing. We have highs and lows, and you can see how you fit into that. So, anything else, any kind of other kind of data that you, traffic counts, we don't have a good means. We actually contract that, and that has to get approval to spend money. So, I mean, you can certainly request it, and I can run it up the pipe.
Well, in those cases, what's generally the turnaround as far as from the request to getting somebody out here to do that to where we can get it done?
I probably couldn't get anybody out here this week, and that's, I know you've got a time limitation. I don't think we have current count data for what we don't have the needs to do it. So, let me see what I got, let me see what our availability is.
Okay.
Send me an email requesting assistance, and I'll see what, if Sal wants to pony up something, then we can try and work it out. If our little laser guy is available for speed, I may be able to get that out.
Okay.
If it's not being used, because that's my staff. That's what I got. The actual data, the counting, now the pet counts, you guys can do yourself. That's just, you sit up there with a piece of paper right there. The counts on White Settlement and the speeds on White Settlement, again, that's obviously. So send me a request.
Guys, do you have any questions or like specific things that you can think of right off the top of your head that these guys might be able to answer, at least be able, or their answer might be able to point us in the right direction, Alexis?
How, what would an estimate be of,
School zones runs about 16,000. And the RRPs run between 12 and 15. That's the flashing beacon, that would be for your cross-country guys, if they need a push-button activation off time, not during school zone hours.
And just out of curiosity, can you tell us what the cost would be if it was deemed through the warrants that they could actually meet the warrants or justify it in full, stop sign, but
Traffic signal,
traffic signal?
about 185,000.
And generally, what is turnaround time from, okay, we agree, if we're gonna spend the money to do this, to actually get it installed?
A lot of time is the lead time for getting materials, 6 months. Between when we are authorized to move the order equipment, it's going to take a couple of 90 days to get here. And then, it could be a little bit less, but I would not have it. Yes.
Um,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
so if you put in a traffic light, what else would you need to do if you wanted to also put it on the turning lane?
That's a lot more money, because you have to actually like, you either have to take lane away, which the driver's on white side. You're talking about on white side?
No, on Churchill.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
Would you use that?
I'd have to look at that. It really depends a lot on drainage. I'm trying to remember, which is building. There are,
I want to say that there is, it's 2 lanes,
right,
so there's no way to get traffic to move over everywhere you can have. So regardless of whether you're trying to right.
right, what I'm thinking of, you guys have to widen Churchill. And that's what I'm thinking, you got some drainage issues.
Yeah.
That's-
Well, and also you're landlocked too. It's not like, I mean, you know, if,
Depends on how bad the school
yeah, well, if, assuming sewage issues and so forth aren't the issue, is that something at which point, this, both cities, because at some point we're going into the roads at that point too, correct?
I don't know.
Because I know that, I can't remember, I don't remember what part of Churchill becomes River Oaks, but at that point, would that be where both cities would end up having a talk,
Yeah.
with the landlords for even
Right,
like
we cannot spend money outside of our city, north and south.
Right,
And so,
but it would have to be something that y'all would be working in
Correct.
conjunction with, where
Correct.
both projects can be done at the same time.
Correct.
But you'd have to use eminent domain to end up getting that to happen.
no.
No.
The only time we use eminent domain is when somebody's not willing to give us land. And if the city is willing, both cities are willing, we don't need a landowner here at the school. If the school wants the light, and they have to only have some square footage.
I didn't know about on the other side, to widen it from both sides.
Well, I thought we were talking about just widening Churchill. If you want to turn lanes on White Settlement,
No, I'm thinking right here in front of the school, because we have all the houses that are already
Right.
existing, that's why I was.
okay,
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, right, Rachel?
Yeah,
This road out here, either widening it from taking away school land or person's house. Not a person's house,
that little building.
the little dog run.
yeah,
Okay.
that's a larger project, much larger.
Right.
Like, when you start actually like installing it, how long will it take actually to operate it?
For the signal,
If you actually like begin to install the stoplight,
Yeah.
like there, and you actually start installing it, how long?
2 months. A lot of it is, you've got concrete dirt on the foundations. You've got a lot of underground stuff. You've got to get power to it. 2 months. That actually would be kind of fast tracking. But I've seen it done in less than that, but not very often.
What about the RRF?
The RRVs are different. Those you can actually install in a day. We use it's kind of like a corkscrew foundation. You screw the foundation in and you bolt the pole onto it. It's what we use for our school zones as well. So once we have utility locates, we know we don't have anything underground. We just bring out the big truck and screw this thing to the ground and bolt the stuff along to it. So that's really one day.
Once you start the project, you have to shut down that intersection in order for the construction.
No, you won't ever shut it down. Most everything can be done. I mean, they can do what they call directional boring to get stuff underneath the roadway. And actually, this would work well because you've got bar ditches and everywhere. They take it's like a little drill bit, they go under the road and then they pull the conduit back. So you shouldn't see a whole lot of disruption. You will at some point, they'll probably, when they're setting the poles and the mast arms, they may have a flagger out there so they don't drop something on somebody's car. But you won't shut it down for a day.
How do weather-related incidents figure into correctable action?
I treat them, okay, I take the weather as a contributing factor, but it's not, what causes an accident to be correctable is the right of way, who has the right of way. And so it may make the situation worse, but the situation still exists where the person coming off Churchill never has the right of way. So that accident is gonna happen in dry or wet. Again, there are some accidents that are strictly weather related, again, more rear end type stuff. Um, Left turning traffic onto, now, even the left turning traffic from White Settlement to Churchill is, that would be a protected phase with the signal saying you would still have that right of way. Typically, those accidents that are correctable are the accidents where somebody is making a maneuver and they don't have the right of way. The White Settlement traffic always has the right of way because there's no traffic control device. Churchill has a stop sign, they have to yield whatever right of way they may thought they had, and they have to wait for a gap in traffic.
What about in the case of like, like there's cars coming south on White Settlement, there's no traffic light, they go up that hill, they hit a little patch of ice, they now have to play, they cross the traffic lane and impact another vehicle.
Okay, the intersection, the only accidents that you're gonna look at for signal warrant are the ones that happen within 50 feet of the intersection. All right, so if they hit ice and spin out in the intersection, maybe, but probably you wouldn't count that. It's really when they fail to give the right.
So in that case, we're actually looking at two different, not just the intersection itself, but also just trying to protect traffic and pedestrians on that hill.
Okay,
Would
but
those would be two separate issues?
well, yeah, the traffic signal is only gonna address that specific intersection. And the school zone, at 20 mph, is only gonna address where they cross. If you put a signal in, not getting the school zone. Because you already have the ultimate traffic control device. They're not going slow, they're stopped when you're crossing that street. Because that's where you're gonna wanna cross the kids. I don't care how you have to walk, they're coming here, theoretically. So that's a perfect place to cross. We have pedestrian indications, we have crosswalk on the ground, push buttons. They would, again, much like the RFP, the pedestrian push button will activate the signal. So if it's sitting in green on White Settlement, somebody wants to cross, they push the button, change it to yellow and red. You don't need the 20 mph zone. They're stopped if they're available.
How is the impending development on the right side of White Settlement affect the effectiveness of the stoplight?
Well, that's something, if you've got a planned development on the other side, and they're gonna align their driveway with Churchill, then what we would do with traffic engineers, I would introduce this is Chandra. Yeah, it's first day. I hired him away from where I used to work. What we would do with traffic engineers as a consultant is develop a scenario, a trip generation. How many trips is that development gonna generate? How many of them are gonna use this particular driveway or access point? And you actually add those into your traffic counts that you use for your traffic signal. So it helps.
Where did we find the accident?
Okay, in reality, you would go through the police department. In this particular instance, because you have a deadline, just tell him to ask me, and I can try to come up with it. But there's an online, I think there's a question online, or there's a phone number you can call to request action. They're going to cover it under the Open Records Act.
This is going about this after, how will the process going about this after we gather the information? After that we go, what do we do after that?
Well, what I can do is, I can explain it to you, but probably what's better, put it on your list, and I'll send you a traffic signal work study that we've conducted, or trying to conduct in the past, and we'll give you a go back.
So you have basically the same question.
Actually, unfortunately, we have almost no data available. Our count program, our traffic count program ended about 10 years ago, and we have not funded it, just resurrection count. So we don't have any current data for vehicular counts. And we don't, the only data we have for pedestrian crossings are locations of crossing lines. And we just started that program last fall. No. So we have one set of counts. And that's the data that I was talking about. I can share that with you, and you can, when you do count your pedestrian activity on White Settlement, you can see how you kind of fit in the rest of the crossings. But I encourage you to look at the MTCD stuff online, on the signal warrants, and read those. It gives you a lot of guidance as far as the application. There are some, if your speed, and this would help you significantly, if your speeds are over 40 or so, you get to reduce the requirements. So it tends to reflect the higher speed roadways being more critical for traffic signals. So the higher your speed, the lower your pressure. So, but that's a good first spot to start looking at least for the signal warrant, for the traffic signal. Look at what you're up against as far as meeting, satisfying those criteria. Because the engineering department's not gonna, if it doesn't meet the criteria, we are not gonna support it. Because it's a liability. Right. I mean, if somebody, if you put a signal in that's not warranted, if somebody has an accident, they get the signal. You didn't follow it. So it's a liability for the city. We're not really willing to accept. Although, right, we do have signals out there that don't meet warrants. So, yeah.
All right, guys. Go ahead.
Where would you say that we have the restrictions from? Because I know there's some lights up here, going across this roadway. There's lights over here, and then the lights, after the bridge, or before the bridge.
Something about a road cut off.
Yeah,
Like, is there like anything that specifically says that you can't have consecutive lights?
No, you can. We try to keep them 1,000 feet apart. You can, I've seen them as close as 300 feet apart. They don't necessarily work very well. But, you know, I don't think you're not, I don't think you're up against that area.
Just for my sake, okay, just so that I know, and you guys help me on this, and ask me on this, okay, ask you about sending an email about getting a copy of the traffic study that you had done before.
Okay.
The Bluetooth device.
Right, the radars for speed, and that's for 2 locations. That's Churchill. You wanted both, I think. You wanted, no, Southwest, you wanted an existing school zone as an example, but you also want something else.
Accident reports, try to get that expedited, through you. Is there anything else that, Rachel?
what if you wanted to put just like a traffic sign, like a stop, so it's something on the overview, like, what do you have to do for that?
Well, are you talking about at White Summit?
Yeah,
And making it an all-way stop?
no, like, maybe just like a warning sign.
Like, you'll find, what you're really talking about is through stop.
Now, there are criteria for that, and that's also in the MUTCD. But again, that's one of those, I can put up side street stops anywhere I want to, but there's criteria that you have to satisfy to do an all-way stop. An all-way stop is treated almost like a traffic signal, because it does almost the same thing. In fact, it's an acceptable interim. If you have this location where you have a signal program, but for whatever reason, there's a delay in the installation, the manual allows you to use an all-way stop as an interim device if you're, to address the safety need before the signal comes on. So that's something that you can consider. You wouldn't in this case, because an always stop is stopped 24 hours a day. And every vehicle that comes through the intersection has to stop. You really don't like them. There are places for them. White Settlement's not one.
What are the different criteria for like school zones and like?
Okay.
The difference
Between,
between criteria and what?
okay, school zones are a gray area. All it says is you have to have pedestrians crossing the roadway. It doesn't give you, one is enough. Yeah, who's gonna stand up and say, sorry, you're not important enough, we need at least two of you. So one pedestrian is enough, but what you're trying to do is make your case, your argument as strong as it can be. If you only count one pedestrian crossing White Settlement, it's not a very strong argument to slow everybody down to 20, so that sometime during that 2-hour period, this one person might cross. So it's kind of a reasonability test. It's not really reasonable. If you have 100 crossing in that 2-hour period, different story. So that's the data that you need to know. As far as your question is criteria, there really aren't. Okay, once you establish the need, and that the need is established by pedestrians crossing, then it will tell you how far back the signs need to be, how far back the beacons need to be. There's 3 sets. There's signs at the crosswalk. There's the 20-mile-an-hour signs at the beacons, and then there's an advanced sign that shows the pedestrian. So those criteria are very clearly spelled out. But the criteria for getting a school zone installed in the first place is very, very big.
Where would they find that vague language?
It's in the NTCD. There's also, you can look at the NTCD, you can look at the FHWA websites, Federal Highways Administration, TTI, Texas Transportation Institute, actually it's Texas, and it's now Hamlin High, so their acronym changed to the university. That's actually a kind of an offshoot of Texas Transportation Institute. They have some good data out there. Google it. That's what we do. It's really not very well defined.
With the number of student drivers at that intersection, we take into account when considering school zone or something?
It can be. There is no specific criteria for age of driver. Typically, that's going to be reflected in your accident history. Theoretically, younger, inexperienced drivers have more accidents. So there's no adjacency or age or those kind of criteria really don't exist for either the school zone or the center.
But it can be used in formulating the argument.
Yeah. If you, and again, I'll go back to the beginning. The fact that you satisfy one or more of the warrants doesn't mean you get a decision. So you still have to make an argument of why this is important. And even beyond that, why this is more important than the other 17 signals we have waiting to do. Because even if you satisfy 4 warrants and the city agrees, yes, we're going to do it, it may be 3-4 years before you see one because we've got a bunch in the queue already. And so part of your argument needs to be, hey, this happens all the time. This is an immediate need. And back that up somehow. That again goes back to where you're going to include your driver's age, that kind of thing.
And because we're wanting this to be more proactive as opposed to reactive, school population is growing and it's going to continue to grow. Is some type of a growth curve to where we can say, okay, within the last 5 years, population has increased, school population has increased, and we're continuing to see that trend in anticipation. Can that be factored in?
Sure.
To the argument?
Well, you can actually, different agencies treat it differently. TxDOT, even internally, they treat it differently. The balance district will not warrant a signal based on future volumes. You can say, look, I'm putting a Walmart, and they're going to say, okay, here's the Walmart here, we'll take a look at it. Forward is a little different. The Forward district of Texas is a little bit different. The city of Forward, too. We try not to base judgment on forecasts, because they don't always pan out, you know, they don't happen all the time. But you could certainly put that in your argument, especially for the pedestrian activity, because that's a linear relationship. You know, when you, or the argument can be made, it's much more linear. The driver piece, the student driver, unless you can argue, be very specific on collecting how many student drivers you have, which you do know, because you know how many folks. That's a good ballpark, how many parking points you have, that's how many student drivers you have. And you kind of guesstimate on how many are coming from whatever direction and turning whatever way through that intersection, you can ramp that up as well. But again, that may be limited by the number of permits that you can issue. I don't know if you guys have a ceiling.
You know, well, oh no, I can go ask her.
Because at some point, if you issued all the parking permits that you have, there are no more parking spaces. I don't care what your population is, the number of drivers are gonna stay the same because they can't park. If they can't park, they're not driving to school.
Well, something else we can look at, guys, is we conduct surveys and polls inside Canvas to be able to find out from our student drivers, where are they coming from? For teachers, where are they coming from? How many of them actually crossing that intersection that we know specifically in the school, not counting everybody else, but just specific school traffic in the building. We can find that out, we probably also go down in Marsh and Decatur as well. So that would also be a good point. So, okay, do we have any final questions for these gentlemen before we wrap up class? Well, I will definitely be getting this to you as soon as possible.
Hey, they didn't. All right, I was just at a conference, I would have called my cards. So there you are. Thanks, guys. I will walk you down.